July 16, 1969. As Apollo 11 climbs through Max Q, the physical violence of a Saturn V launch is obvious. Millions of pounds of thrust tear through the atmosphere. But beneath the roar of the engines, an invisible storm is taking place. The spacecraft is broadcasting thousands of telemetry variables every second: trajectory vectors, engine chamber pressures, and IMU drift rates, beaming them all down to S-band transceivers and a global network of tracking ships. All of those numbers stream directly into NASA's real-time computer complex in Houston. There, operators have to make sense of this relentless, chaotic flood of incoming variables to keep the mission alive. A rocket this powerful is entirely blind without ground computers. If Houston cannot instantly organize that massive data stream into an accurate mathematical model of the spacecraft, the mission fails. The task of processing all that data fell to 5 IBM System/360 Model J75 mainframes. By modern standards, these machines were incredibly limited. Each J75 had roughly 1 megabyte of main memory and processed about 1 million instructions per second. They lacked a real-time operating system entirely. Their most severe limitation was structural. The J75 had no native multitasking and no concept of processing threats. It could execute only one single task at a time. This created a lethal vulnerability known as a race condition. If an asynchronous pulse of incoming telemetry attempts to overwrite a block of memory, at the exact millisecond the guidance software is trying to read it, the data becomes corrupted. Without a method to safely sequence these overlapping demands, the J75 would inevitably scramble its own memory. An unmanaged system would quickly crash. To solve this, IBM engineers abandoned standard software practices and hand-built a strictly controlled pre-relational data architecture they called DataTables. To achieve temporal concurrency, engineers divided time itself. They enforced a microschedule, giving each subsystem an exact, hard-coded window while locking out others. Writes required atomic updates, finishing completely in milliseconds. Partial updates and dynamic memory allocation were strictly forbidden. This rigid choreography successfully bypassed the need for parallel processing. By forcing every chaotic, asynchronous input to wait in line, the system ensured absolute sequential order. That sequential order was constantly tested by the reality of spaceflight. Raw telemetry arrived from tracking stations in a highly degraded state, frequently delayed, heavily duplicated, or entirely out of sequence. Before a single byte of telemetry reached memory, it had to match a strict validation schema. Incoming packets faced rigorous checksum verifications and timestamp ordering to prevent bad data from poisoning calculations. Stale or malformed packets were instantly discarded. To prevent the system from freezing while waiting for dropped packets, DataTables employed aggressive timeouts. If a trajectory simulation overstepped its time slice, the architecture ruthlessly truncated the process to keep the rest of the cycle moving. Engineers also imposed a total ban on schema drift. Altering the format of data structures during a mission was forbidden to maintain system stability. DataTables functioned as a deterministic firewall, actively defending the mission's trajectory calculations from the corruption of raw reality. Behind this firewall, the dynamic simulator subsystem could reliably pull from DataTables to compute critical guidance states, predict abort envelopes, and resolve orbital mechanics without fear of a mid-calculation memory change. Mission control relied entirely on this data stream. The display computer receives synchronized atomic snapshots directly from DataTables, eliminating screen flicker and preventing controllers from acting on partially rendered numbers. The margin for error here was 0. The survival of the Apollo 11 crew depended entirely on these protected datasets remaining flawless throughout the entire 8-day mission. The astronauts landed safely because this architecture forced every screen, server, and subsystem to agree on a single, indisputable version of the truth. The rigid constraints of the Apollo program established the foundation for modern real-time databases and the deterministic concurrency control used in today's mission-critical systems. Eventually, NASA upgraded the RTCC architecture to the more advanced IBM 370 mainframes, taking these data management concepts forward into the Space Shuttle program. This evolution ensured that even as spacecrafts became more complex, the ground computers could maintain absolute data integrity during operational flights. Apollo's complex network of sensors and solvers functioned as a single unit because this architecture successfully prioritized mathematical stability over hardware limitations. Thanks for joining Database History. A spacecraft can fly to the moon, but only if the database keeps up with the sky.